Hi, my name's Tim McKenzie, and I'll be your instructor this semester in Introduction to Ethics. I made a video that was online. I'm replacing it right now. So if you watch the old one, you don't have to watch this one. But it's basically I wanted to make a new updated video. The one I had on there was from summer, and I talked a little bit about the speed of the semester, but the rest of the information was good. Just gonna update it for the fall. I'm a little slow in getting it up, and I think that probably speaks to one of the issues I always tell people about. People will sometimes ask me, one of the first things I always talk about is how to be successful in an online course. And I always say there's sort of two things I suggest one do in order to be successful in an online course. The first one is I always suggest that you set aside specific time to work on the course, because one of the things is with if you have, and this is true for myself, if you have an online course and you have a classroom course and you have a paper due at, today in class, or they're going to possibly give a pop quiz or things, and you have to be there in that specific place, you're going to prep. And as a teacher, that's definitely true for me. I can't go into the classroom completely unprepared. But an online course, you can kind of push it back a little bit. And this is probably a case where just had a busier than expected week because of my kid's school start and my kid having a few issues with school, and I got a little bit behind in updating this video. The information was good, and so I kind of just said, you know what, that video will do, but I'm going to put it off, and now I'm getting around to updating it, and it's a little late. And that's the same way that can happen even for a student. And so I understand that, and I'm usually fairly easily accommodating. I don't want you to be like, oh, he does this, but he doesn't expect the same of me. If you run into some life issues, I am usually pretty easy and willing to work with you. So don't think that I hold you to a different standard than myself. I fully understand. All of us are very busy. A lot of us are taking online courses because we have jobs and kids, and we're trying to do 16 other things, and we have parents who may be sick. We may, whatever, right? And so, I am fully understanding of that, and I'm usually willing to give a little bit of slack to those who need it. But, I don't want to give you so much slack that you end up hanging yourself in all the excess rope or whatever. And so what happens is that I try to set some standards and set some rules and do that. But the biggest thing is, as far as the question, how can I be successful in an online course? And the thing I always tell people is the best thing you can do is set aside time. This is a 3 credit hour class, and you should be setting aside time in order to work on a 3 credit hour class. You can't expect to not have any time set aside, or do it in 2 hours. You really need to set aside time, and for every 3 hours that it's in class, you should be doing 2 hours outside. So you should be setting aside anywhere from probably up to 9 hours a week for this class. Some weeks may take more, some weeks may take less. I would say most weeks probably you can get by with a little bit less than 9 hours, but that's what you should kind of, at the beginning of the semester, set aside a time when you work on this class and others, and that'll help you to be successful in the class. As far as it goes, I'm sorry, my computer gets my text messages and it's beeping. I'm turning that off, and it's connected to my phone, which I'm recording this from, so when I touch the keyboard on it, it shakes. And so, sorry, I'll try to figure out a little bit better setup for this for future videos. And I just hit mute, so we got that taken care of. It won't beep anymore, so you don't have to look at your phone. Anyway, the other thing is so set aside time. And the other thing is, I always tell people, in a regular classroom, you can count on somebody to raise a hand and ask a question. So if you're having a little bit of a problem, or you're uncertain about something, you have a question, you can kind of hope that somebody else has a similar issue, and they'll raise their hands, and then other people speak up, and quickly we realize, that I've not been as clear about something as I thought I was perfectly clear about. And, and so, if you have a question, if you're confused, if you don't understand, ask me, because that's the only way I know that you guys are not getting something, or confused, or I've been less than clear. That's the nice way of saying that I didn't make sense. And so the case is don't be afraid to ask. My job is to help you. And if you have a question, sometimes people will email me and they will say, I'm sorry to ask so many questions. You know what? As long as you're asking questions that aren't like just ridiculous questions, like, when is the paper due, because you can check that on the syllabus. But if it's a legitimate question, like, I'm just a little confused about this, I don't understand this, is how do you explain this? You know, I am perfectly fine answering questions, and I don't even mind answering questions that are simple. That's what I get paid to do. That's my job, and I'm perfectly happy. I enjoy my job, and I'm perfectly willing to do that. If you ever have questions, email me, ask them. Don't be hesitant or afraid or feel like you're being a nuisance, because really in the end you're not. Text me, call me, do whatever. You can come by my office. I'm around. I'm willing to help. I'm willing to sit down and talk to you if you have questions beyond that. I mean, this is what I do. I enjoy my job, and don't be afraid to ask questions. But the only way I know you're struggling, the only way I know you're having issues, is if you ask me questions. You can't just rely upon other people to raise their hands. As far as this class goes, the class is kind of, it's listed as kind of being a 50-50 split between theory and discussion on ethical issues. And so half of it, a lot of the online lectures and stuff, are supposed to be kind of the half of the class that deals with theory. And you'll deal with utilitarianism, deontological ethics, virtue ethics, rights approach, egoism, ethical relativism, things like that. And those will all be kind of theory-based. What are the long-standing theories about why we as humans make the value choices we make, why we make the ethical decisions we make. The other half is a discussion. So you're given cases. You're given a case like this. First one is like a brick one. We'll use ones like about, cancer care treatment and cost-benefit analysis on that. Giving to charity and how they spend their money. Various topics, various issues. Like that. And so that's the other half of the course. In the past, I've given more essay questions on the exams, and this year I decided, or over the summer I decided I was going to move over to more multiple choice, matching, things like that, because I felt like there was just too many writing components, that you guys were writing like 40, 50 pages by the time it was all said and done, because you're supposed to write 2 papers that are maybe 5, 6 pages, 7 pages at the most, or you can do longer, but that most of them will be 5 or 6 pages, and that's 10 to 12 pages, and then you'll write 8 discussion board posts, which are each about a full page, so that's about 18, 20 pages. That's a lot of writing for a 200 level course. That's plenty of writing. And if you had to do essays on every exam that were 2 or 3 pages in length, on top of that, then you would end up writing, I think I was figuring like 40 or 50 pages sometimes in the semester, and we don't need to do that much writing. And so I changed that. But as a result, I do kind of expect you to do a little bit more on the discussion boards. I'm going to be a little bit harder on those, and be a little bit more stringent on, you didn't really answer the question, you didn't really engage it thoughtfully, you didn't go as deep as I would have liked. So take some time, because that is a big part of it, is you looking at these cases and giving a thoughtful answer. Now, I don't grade these questions based upon your political beliefs. I don't care if you're a Republican. I don't care if you're a Democrat. I don't care if you're a liberal or conservative. I really don't care. I know people on both sides of the perspective. I'm definitely lean one way over the other, but my brother, who I talk to a couple times a week, the one I date, they lean the other direction, and we get along perfectly well. We have discussions on issues. Sometimes I get a little rowdy, and I get told, to calm down, but that's just me. But we have a good exchange. I listen to what they have to say, and we have a pretty good byplay, because at the end of the day, I understand where they come from, and even though we have different approaches, we have different underlying assumptions, that our discussions can be constructive and respectful. And I am not as concerned about the position you take as much as I am about the fact that you are constructive, and you look at the weaknesses, you look at the strengths. I realize that even though I don't agree with things, I understand the underlying premises, and I understand the underlying ideas, and I'm able to assess that in a realistic way. And people who share my opinion, who defend things in a way that is less than good, I am usually, I kind of take offense to that as a person who shares their position, right? I mean, argue better, right? You're representing my position, right? And so don't think that, be willing to say whatever you want. If you want to say something that is off the wall, fine. If you want to play devil's advocate, fine. Just do it in a way that's constructive and thoughtful, and that's what I'm looking for. I like people when they play and give positions that are opposite of what I have or opposite of what everybody else has, just in order to be a little bit of a stick in the mud, because I respect that. That's a lot of what philosophy is about. As far as the class goes, there will be 2 papers. Each one will be 5-7 pages, that kind of ballpark. Those are asking you to look at an ethical issue in a little bit more depth. And those will have, there's a folder there, you can read about that. If you have questions, I forget the due dates, but those are throughout the semester. There is a final exam, which will be kind of a recap of all the questions we've had on all the exams throughout the semester. And then there's the discussion boards, and then there's module exams. You do the lessons and you do the exam. There's some reading in the book. But a lot of the questions will come from stuff online, and that's the way it goes. The other thing is all the modules are open at the beginning of the semester. A few of the videos need to be updated in future modules. Some of them are a few years old. Most of the main content is okay, although I may use some wrong dates. I try to update those, and I will be updating those here in the next couple weeks. And so hopefully but the idea though is they're all open. And if you want to work ahead, if you want to go ahead and do Module 2 and Module 3 and Module 4, Module 5, and be done with the whole semester by October 1st, you're welcome to do that. Now, the discussion boards you're going to kind of have to wait on, but if you want to finish the course in a week, I don't care. I mean, that's your prerogative. But at the same time, that is kind of the way that works. You're willing, I always like it when people work ahead, but you will have to wait on some of the discussion boards. The only problem is sometimes I do set deadlines throughout the semester on those modules because I don't want you to wait until the very end to do all of them in like a couple days. You won't do as well. And so they do close at certain points, but because they are available early on, and like maybe you're going to have a medical procedure, maybe you're having other family life issue changes that you're not sure what your schedule is going to look like in November, work ahead, get it done. Don't let this be the thing that's slowing you down at that point. You're able to work ahead, but at the same token, don't come to me and complain a whole lot later on when you didn't work ahead. Now, I will still be willing to accommodate and listen to you. I don't want you to think that I'm unwilling to do it, but I'm also suggesting, manage your own schedule, and if you know something's coming up, work ahead. It is available for that. Last thing before I let you go is I always offer, if you see errors in the class, like dates wrong, I state something wrong, if I give you a grammatical error or other things like that. Sometimes I've found people send me some very interesting grammatical errors. Somebody sent me one just the other day about the fact that I used the past tense and it didn't make sense given the previous sentence, and so that's one thing that overlooked, and it was actually a pretty sophisticated catch, and I was very impressed by it, that they caught some kind of a little bit of a more nuanced change. I used to be an editor and at a newspaper, copy editor at a newspaper. I've been a reporter. Trust me, I've put plenty of errors into print, and there are plenty of errors in here, and I appreciate them getting caught because I can then catch them and make them better. And in the process, if you catch something, you tell me they made a mistake, I will give you extra credit. You don't have to feel bad about doing it. I should feel bad about having made the mistake, not you catching it. And so I do give extra credit. Anymore, if you catch an error, I give 2 points extra credit. The only thing I do say is I say, if you point it out and I fix it, then somebody else points it out after I fix it, I usually won't give credit for that. I expect you to be the first person, like I wouldn't say the first person, but once the error is corrected, I don't give credit for it. So don't save up 23 errors and send it to me the last week of the semester, because if I fixed them, you won't get credit. But if you see them, send them along. That's fine. I don't think there's a ton of errors like there. I think that over the years, over a couple years of making changes and adjusting stuff, it is better, and there aren't that many. But there always are going to be errors. There's going to be things wrong, settings wrong, things like that. And I'm more than happy to give you credit. And it's a good way to make extra credit, as well as a good way for me to improve the course, which is ultimately my goal. If you have any questions, don't hesitate to email, call, text, whatever, however you want to get a hold of me. Stop by my office. I'm here to help. Good luck.